I'm gonna give a quick movie review of this movie called Shelter. I happened upon it on an app called Popcorn Time. Popcorn Time is a desktop app, but you could also download it to your phone. You just go do a search for Popcorn Time, install it, and you can get it that way. It's not in the app store. You can do it on desktop or phone. There's a movie called Shelter, Shelter. It was from 2013, and this is a good movie for uh, homeless people or formerly homeless people or people that have a deep, I don't know, interest in homeless. The movie, to me, was a very good movie. At first, I had a very hard time watching it because it was too real. Like, just the part of how the homeless people interact. That's very real. That's exactly exactly how it is, and I'm speaking from personal experience. Exactly how it is. Like, people, basically in the street, whatever type of happiness they can get, just dancing, whatever, in the park. That's exactly how a homeless person's, from my experience, a homeless person's day goes. Beat up by the police, taken in, and yeah, it's exactly how it goes. And then you go to a shelter, and they don't have time, and it was very hard for me to watch. Everything was real, about watching out for people's stuff, and you can't really trust anybody. If you want it, the rule is you take it with you if you want it. um it was very difficult to watch. I never experienced the part of seeing somebody trying to harm themselves, but in the after effects, I do know people that have, or know of people or encountered people that have, and these people did not seem, from what I saw, I met them in the shelters. They were not that bad off. Like, attractive, decent, really good people. One, I don't even want to talk about it, but yeah. So it was difficult to watch. And then the part where they go to the shelter place, they say that they can't be there because they're not married. And then somebody was nice and gave them a 10-day extension. And then usually the people that work at these places, they're formerly homeless. They're like strung out drugs. They're not good people. And they just have a grudge or something. And then, so they went back, and the girl's boyfriend got, you'll see a lot of interracial too on the streets. And that's another way you can tell homeless people, is because you'll see people, even people that you can't really tell are homeless, or that seem like they have something good about them. You can tell because homeless people, it's like you'll see people that normally you would never see interact with each other. You know, that's how you know that the people are in shelters and things like that. It's just a really weird thing to see. And but anyhow, like, they gave them a 10-day extension, but the girl's boyfriend got really sick, and then the guy first was trying to kick them out because they weren't married. Then after they got the extension, he was like, "Oh well, this is a double occupancy room. There's only one of you, so I can't, in good conscience, let you keep this room." So they kicked her out. Her boyfriend was in the hospital. They had 10 days. And then, the process of being shuffled back and forth from a shelter to a hospital. Um, Shelter to a hospital. The shelter says that it's the hospital's problem. The hospital says it's the shelter's problem. And then the person in the middle, at first they keep going back and forth and trying, but after a while they just give up. And that's true. It's true. I never had a situation with exactly the hospital, but I've had similar situations. And, again, I don't really recall the details. I guess if I thought about it, I could. But it's similar. And then also to get into shelters and things like that, they want you to either say you're on drugs or crazy or whatever. So what they'll do is they'll say, "You use drugs, don't you? You don't have to lie." And they'll keep pushing you and pushing you. And after a while, you're badgered to the point where first you'll keep saying no, no, no. Then they'll take you in, and then you have a quote unquote caseworker that does the same thing, badgers you, badgers you, badgers you, and then you might be like, okay, to get her off your back, I smoked weed once, and I haven't. I've never done that. But then now it's on paper somewhere that that's what it is, and you have to sign the documents. So, nothing is what you can say it is, but it's a movie called Shelter. And again, it was hard for me to watch some of it. Before it even got to the bad parts, it was hard for me to watch because it was too real, just hanging out at a park. And you'll see, and even though I wasn't the one that was dancing around in circles, I recall, having a connection. Not necessarily that I talked to that person, but seeing that person and understanding why they were doing what they were doing. Just a way to break free and be happy, just dancing. Um, and then the other part that I saw that I could relate to was the compassion. When the black guy saw the girl about to jump off the bridge or whatever, and he was following her because she took his jacket, but then he prevented her from jumping, and he stayed with her, to make sure she was okay, and at first she fought it. And then the other part that I've seen is people strung out on drugs. I try to avert my eyes or not see when they're actively doing stuff, but yeah, that's true. Also true, and I've never had it happen to me to this extent, but I've had similar experiences where the girl, it was freezing cold, snowing, everything. And so she goes to, I guess, like this building where there's a concierge or a security person at the front. And she says to him, she asks him basically for a place to stay for the night, like in the lobby or something. And at first he seemed so nice and so sweet. He was like, I can't because there's cameras all around here, but I tell you what. And at first I'm thinking to myself, because I could relive almost that experience. And I remember feeling, and actually I have a story to share, but I remember feeling like if that was me, I would have, left immediately because it's freezing cold and you're going to keep me out here having this nice conversation about your daughter and all this other stuff. It's cold. What's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? Either you're there to help somebody or you're not. And then he says, well, if you go around to the back, there's a door for the boiler room. I'll let you in the back. He lets her in, and you think everything's good. And she's very thankful, happy to at least have some peace and that type of thing. And then he unbuttons his pants, and he's like, nothing comes free in New York or whatever. New York is not a state where or place where you do something. New York is not a something for nothing place or something like that. And so she packs her stuff and she leaves, and then she realizes how cold it is, so she goes back. And this is I think whoever did the movie did a really good job at portraying things, and obviously they knew homeless people or was homeless at one point. The credit says, for the homeless couple that lived outside their apartment. But I'm thinking, in order to capture it to that extent, you had to at some point been homeless, because it was just, or experienced firsthand, like been in a shelter for a week or something. But the person that directed it did such a good job, because the next cut was of the stuff on her face because he did whatever, and you can see her heart breaking, and she's broken and in tears, and trying to keep her chin up because she wanted a place to stay. Now, my experience, I'm gonna tell you my homeless experience. With me, I had experience where, it's just really bad. And I remember talking to, before I was court ordered to homelessness, where I lived, there was a girl that was out there that was on crack. And I remember, to me, she had the most beautiful smile in the world. But, due to the drugs and everything, you could see how it affected her appearance. And I remember, she was only like 20, like 23, 20, she was young. And I remember asking her what happened, and she just looked at me with a smile. She's like, it's a long story. And you know what? I'm still not at the end of the road, but I completely understand it and get it. It's completely a long story. It's too much. It's too much to really, go into like that. Because when you start thinking about one story to tell, there's about 20 others, that come with it, And, ranging from the abuse from, shelter people to, I mean, it's just so much. The people that, before you realize that when people look at you, that that's what they see, that they see a homeless person, and you're still thinking that when people approach you, they're approaching you out of kindness, and it turns out to be they're not. They understand your situation, and they're there to attempt to take advantage of you. And then the facilitators in places like this, again, if they have an opportunity to take advantage of you, they will. Some of them just out and out had inappropriate relationships with people, you know. And then there's people that they talk a good game because it's their job, but when it comes to shove, they're gonna do whatever dirt they need to do to keep their job. And they would even go so far as say they're not that type of person, But in reality, they're not. I had one that said they were not job scared, and I was so impressed, and that was like my hero. But then the situation came. Mm-mm. So I have a lot of stories, but I mean, just it was awful, absolutely awful. And then all of the things that you see on the background on my page, the workplace bullying, um, being a victim. You're victimized over and 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 over again, over and over again. You know. Um, but if you get a chance, if you've ever been homeless, formerly homeless. And that's the other thing too about that security guard person. That was the part that was really the most difficult for me to watch, because after that first situation, boiler room situation, what happens is that and I'm really offended like when people drive past and do that, because I'm not a prostitute. You know what I'm saying? Why are they doing that? When I was walking down the street with somebody else, they didn't do that. But when you walk down the street by yourself, they're doing that. I don't get it. I do not get it. And if I could get the license plate number of each and every vehicle that did that, I would just jot them down and I would post them somewhere. I definitely would, because that's absolutely disgusting. And it's just, I don't like it at all. But anyhow, continuing right along. So, and I think that guy, like I said, when I was walking past, that came up on a bike behind me and then circled around me and went back. He went back to report to whoever he was going to report, whatever he felt that he needed to do. So it's just really, really, really weird. And I really don't think I need to be out here at night. But yeah. But you have to live your life, So, and it's not late. This is about the same time. It's like maybe 8 something. I left it maybe, I don't know, 7. So yeah, it was very difficult to watch, because this man, if you saw his appearance, and if anybody found out about that story, they would have been like, oh, he was just out of the kindness of his heart trying to help this homeless person. And, they went and they murdered him. He actually ended up getting killed because the girl, the girl's boyfriend got real sick. She needed money. Her dad wouldn't give it to her no more because she was bad on heroin, whatever. I don't use drugs or anything like that. This all is purely from the legal system. Court ordered homelessness. It's a cycle once you start. And the thing is that, like, if you don't have friends, family, whatever, it's like you're looking for people for approval, because you've had this damaging thing happen. And you're constantly going to these places seeking approval, and you're never going to get it. But to end it all, like I said, she ended up needing money to help her boyfriend with medicine. He ends up taking advantage of all that. The boyfriend sees it, and he by accident kills him, and he gets real sick, but he can't go to the hospital or anything like that, because then, of course, he's going to get charged with murder. Somehow, I don't know if he committed suicide or just he got real sick and he died. He died, and that was like the end of it. But if you get a chance, again, if you're homeless, formerly homeless, good movie to watch. Shelter, 2013 movie.